Hey guys, coming at you today with my gadget video. Now, I'm gonna try and be as clear and concise as possible with this. I'm not the best at doing that because I tend to ramble on, and especially when it's like stuff like this, like I almost geek out on all the things you could have for your bakery. But I'm gonna try and break it down into like the essential small wares, essential large items, and then extras for just one specific recipe, or if you're into one specific kind of baking, like cake decorating, stuff like that. So I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get started. So first up, we will start with small wares. Now this is something that everything that I got pretty much is from Amazon, so it all will be linked below in my Amazon links. If you hit one of my Amazon links and you go shopping for anything, not just my items, if you purchase anything while you're on that screen, like you're in my section of Amazon, I do get some percentage of that. So even if you click on one of my links and you go and buy a computer from that link, I still get a percentage of that. So it's not just my products, if you know what I mean. It's just, if you find something you like that's not one of my things that I suggested and you buy it, as long as you clicked on my link first to go to Amazon, it'll count. So just a quick note there. But most of this stuff I did get on Amazon, and it's stuff that I would recommend. So I went through a lot of different measuring cups early on, like in my baking career, and I realized Pyrex is the way to go. No matter what, I always ended up with containers that cracked if they were plastic, and the numbers would all wear off. So I stick with Pyrex, and I finally have a set. I never broke down and bought one until I started my own bakery. Now, someone said it was really difficult to get coconut oil out of the jar. This isn't even that expensive. It's a big metal spoon. We have these in restaurants. So this is what I got. I just got one, basically just to scoop out coconut oil. Maybe a few other things, but it's not expensive and it's good for that job. These spatulas, I wanted small ones in these and big ones. The big ones were back ordered, so I couldn't get them. This one is okay, but it's a little bit too bendy. These guys are like a stiffer, thick plastic. This is what we use. At least my last job, we had all the small ones and the big ones of these, and they don't come apart like other spatulas. They're super durable. The only way you melt them is if you literally put them directly on flame on the stove, which we did at my old job before, by accident, of course. But they don't melt, and they don't, nothing happens to them. They're super, super durable. So I'll definitely link these below, and I'll see if they have the big ones in stock too. But because they didn't, I bought 2 of these, which I really use this size more often than not. Microplane, I didn't have when I first opened the bakery, and it was really annoying. I had one at home, and I would take it back and forth, and I just broke down and bought another one. This is definitely linked below. It's great for zesting oranges, lemons, limes, garlic, ginger, all sorts of things. I didn't buy it right away, and I regretted it. So I bought one probably a couple of months ago, and it's made my life a lot easier. Offset spatulas, if you don't get all different sizes, at least get the one guy. This guy does come in handy also for scooping out larger items like my cream cheese danishes, or big pieces of brownie or pie or what have you. But the little one comes in handy so much for so many different things. This is I use this every day, no matter what. Next is portion scoops. I'm not particularly fond of these ones. These aren't restaurant quality ones because they don't have measurements. They should have measurements here, and it corresponds to how many ounces this thing is. But I got 2 different sets, and it gives me a good range of sizes, but it makes it a little bit confusing when I go to make a recipe. If I don't write down what scoop I used, I end up getting different amounts of a cookie dough or what have you. But they're always good to have at least one of each size. I'd buy one set for home, I have one set at home that is all black handled, and then I have a little guy at home. But they're always good to have on hand, especially if you're doing keto and trying to watch and figure out macros, because this is a good way to portion things out. That way you know how much exactly you're getting in each portion. Another essential smallware are knives. Now, I do not like any of the knives I bought. So far, this is the only one that has been decent, but I haven't used it very much, so that could be why also. I bought like a middle-of-the-road chef's knife. I was very unhappy with this name. I'm very surprised. I was very disappointed because I thought it'd be a really good product because he is a chef. I know he's just YouTube, but if you can see, I don't know if you'll be able to see on here, within a couple of uses, the blade was all dinged up, and I didn't even use it for anything except for just cutting desserts. Like, it's pretty crazy how bad it was. Like, I thought I had something on the blade, and it was literally just burrs of metal from using it like once or twice. I was so bummed. So my suggestion, I know it's tough and it's expensive, but my set of knives I got from culinary school, well, pastry school that I went to, they are Wüsthoffs. And even though they're really not sharp anymore, I mean, this was 16 years ago now that I got these, and they're still in good shape. Like, the blades aren't dinged up. They're still usable. They're not the sharpest anymore, and I've sharpened them myself a couple of times, but you can never get them like super sharp unless you take them somewhere to get professionally sharpened. But they still are lasting. Like, they're not breaking down. Like, the handles aren't coming off. Like, they are a good quality knife. So I always suggest Wüsthoffs. My mom got a set a couple of years ago that she loves, so I definitely recommend that. It is a little expensive, but 15 years and I haven't bought a new set of knives. So there you go. Now the other smallwares, obviously, don't mind me, I cut myself like 3 times yesterday. Ladles, they're not essential really. I like them because I do a lot of custard based things where I have to temper egg yolks. So having a ladle comes in handy. Different size whisks. I like the all metal whisks if you don't have Teflon. If you have Teflon, unfortunately you gotta use silicone, but all the ones I've bought have just broken down. Like the silicone separates and then you get stuff inside and it kind of just grosses me out, but you gotta do what you gotta do. These have been okay so far. I'll link these below. I mean, they're not the highest quality. I wish I knew the ones we had at my old job because they lasted and they were like diesel whisks. I always have different sizes. It always comes in handy to have a little guy just whisk your, gelatin when you're tempering whipped cream and stuff, to have like a little guy just to get in the little bowl. Good kitchen scissors. I bought a set because I only had the one that came in my pastry kit for the longest time, and I actually bought new ones for home that were better, and these guys for the bakery. They're not super expensive, but they come in handy on a lot of things. If you're really trying to portion control, a long metal ruler comes in handy. But this is definitely not essential. A bench scraper comes in handy if you like to bake a lot and do doughs and stuff like that, especially keto ones. They make a mess on your countertop, like my scone recipe. If you haven't seen that, I'll link that up there for you. But I don't particularly have like a special one that I like. I kind of like this one because it has the measurements on it. The one I have at home is just what was in my pastry kit from college, so I don't really see too big of a difference. I do have a plastic one too. These come in handy. I actually like the ones that are a little bit more flimsy than this, but these come in handy for like scraping out bowls and stuff because they're real thin. But not essential. I never even had one of those at home before I opened up the bakery. So next is thermometers. I do love my infrared thermometer. Comes in handy if you're doing a lot of sugar work, caramels and stuff like that. It just makes it a lot easier than sticking a regular thermometer in all the time and then wiping it off and all that stuff. But I do love this thermometer. I'm not sure if I got this on Amazon though. I might have to look into that. But the nice thing is it goes on automatically when you open it up, and then if you turn it, it turns itself, so like it reads no matter what. It's really nice. And then when you close it, it turns off. So this is a really awesome thermometer. I'm really glad I found this. I just wish it was magnetic or something in some way, but there is a little hook on it so you can like hang it on a hook on your stove or something like that. But I am actually considering I might get one of these for at home because I definitely like it a lot. So I'll link it. If it's not on Amazon, it might have been from this Sur la Table company, which I have mixed feelings about. If you saw my apple cider donut recipe, I'll link that up there. That's the company I got that pastry brush from, which I had to throw out because it was falling apart. So, but this is a good find. So if I can find it on Amazon, I'll link it below. That's silly, but every culinary kitchen I've ever worked in, masking tape is always an essential for labeling things, and Sharpie markers. And these are great for closing all your keto chocolate chips and stuff like that. Comes in handy. All different sizes of binder clips is what I use in the bakery. That and twist ties. This stuff comes in handy for if you're a serious meal prepper or baker and you put a lot of things in the freezer. Sharpie definitely. This for like big containers and stuff like that you don't want to write on. Which I will link my containers that I use for all my dry ingredients down below also. But that's also in my ingredient video. This might be the last of my small wares. All the measuring spoons and cups. Which I always suggest having at least 2 sets of measuring cups because I just hate like if you're doing some dry ingredients scooping and then wet stuff and or thick sticky stuff and you need 2 half cups and then you only have 1 and then you gotta wash it and all that stuff. I do like these. These have not like come apart or broken or anything. They're very durable and I really like them. I have 2 sets of these, so I'll link those below. I got them on Amazon. These I got in these and these. I got with my plastic containers that I store my dry goods in, but any plastic that's like durable, I would say is the best. I don't really have I did have this set at home that I brought in. It's just metal. They haven't broken. I have had a lot that have come apart at the welds and stuff like that. So I'm not sure if I have any that I can actually link below on measuring cups. They're pretty cheap though. The only thing I use this for baking, I like to make crepes. A nice non-stick is always good to have. And always keep your protein scoops. They come in handy. Especially if you weigh everything, because then you don't need measuring cups. It's a lot easier. Oh, which brings me to, I didn't even mention, a scale. No matter what, I always suggest a scale. Not this one in particular though. I have one linked below that I have at home and I love it. This one, first off, you gotta hit it here, and it's so far back that if you put anything big on here, you can't see it because it's not down here, it's all the way up here. And then to change it from grams to ounces, you have to lift it up and hit a little button underneath. It's really annoying. Stupid design. And it's chargeable, which is cool, but it doesn't tell you when the battery's getting low. You'd think it would at least have a little battery symbol so you'd know, but no. And if you plug it in, you can't use it. Can't use it at the same time. So if it's dead, it's dead. You can't use it. Really dumb design. So my other scale will be linked below. Almost forgot to mention sifters. I really should have a set that has different sizes. This is the only one I have. So it's kind of bad if you get this wet, you can't use it again for dry ingredients. So it's always good to have multiple sizes and even multiple mesh. This one is really fine. I really should get some that are a little bit bigger holes because psyllium husk doesn't go through. The protein powder really doesn't go through because protein powder is so fine it almost gums up in here. But I've yet to find a good set that I wanted to buy. Now, some small wares that come in handy or are specific to if you're really into one certain thing. I went a whole long time without having any kind of biscuit cutters or cookie cutters of any kind, really. Literally the last 2 years, I just got a bunch. And these are nice to have. So I have ones that are just flat and then ones that are Scalloped edged. But definitely not essential. If you're making a lot of biscuits, I have used these for my biscuit recipe. I'll link that up there for you. These are nice to have just to make cute biscuits, or this is good for I think my Thin Mint recipe. I was looking everywhere for just a round cutter that was scalloped edge to make my Thin Mints. Could not find them. And then I found this whole set I could have used very easily for that. Or you can use this for the Oreos too. So I'll link Thin Mints up there because those are delicious. If you're really into cake decorating, I do suggest a tip set. I finally splurged and got another Wilton one. I have one from forever ago, but Wilton really is the best. I bought a kit that had all these things in it. It's this cake decorating tip set, but they're really low quality. I don't know if you can see, there's a seam And some of the seams mess up the tip. On Wilton, they're seamless all the way around. So they are a little bit better of a product than if you just buy like an off-brand. See how big that hole is compared to these other holes? Because that's where the seam is. So I don't like these as much. I would just go, if you're gonna get anything, just get the Wilton. If you're serious about cake decorating, that is. If not, these are fine. These will do. They'll do in a pinch. More smallwares. KitchenAid ice cream maker. It's always an essential in my house, that's for sure. Hey, so I think that's it for like smallware stuff that I think is essential or what you should get if you're into specific things. But also things like plastic Tupperware for like measuring things out, Ziploc bags, freezer bags, those are always handy, stuff like that. Big plastic wrap, I got this at BJ's. Those are always nicer than the little guys you can get elsewhere. Notepads for if you're doing experimenting, that's always good. Or if you're changing one of my recipes and you need to make notes so that you remember like what you did, notebooks are always handy in the kitchen. Now on to essential larger items, which I really don't use a lot of big items. KitchenAid, you don't need the professional obviously, but this thing is a beast. You're gonna use it, if you're a baker, you're gonna use it every single time because it makes it so much easier. KitchenAid is the way to go. I found this refurbished for less than $300 and it's the professional one. And it was cheaper in red. I'm like, sweet, I wanted red. I'm trying to find the exact price. It was pretty cheap. I couldn't believe that I found it. It was just on their website, refurbished. You can always find something. Another thing, a hand mixer. So what I use my hand mixer for mostly is if I'm doing sponge cake, because it's easier to whip your egg whites, then go to another bowl, whip your egg yolks, and then fold in, instead of trying to whip your egg whites in here, especially if it's a small amount. You don't like whipping egg whites in a little amount in a big bowl because it's harder to whip. And then you got to whip your egg whites in another bowl anyways with this. So then you have two things going. I love this one way more than my last one. It's not perfect by any means, but for the price, I think it was a good deal. And this almost replaced my immersion blender, because I use my immersion blender at home because it has the whisk and it whips up whipped cream in like 2 seconds. Well, this one, you can just put one whisk on it and it does the same thing as my immersion blender does. So I really do like this little guy. And he's powerful, but not too crazy, so it doesn't like throw things all over the place. You might see I have an induction cooktop. I do not prefer them though. They do come in handy for certain things. I know someone was saying that they can't get caramel right or it goes too far. An induction burner does help regulate the temperature and it goes a lot slower, which is good for some people. For me, I'm just like, oh my God, just get done already. So I hate using induction. I like gas stoves better, but I'll link this one below. It works. It's decent. I was a chef and I'm used to using flame, so that's how I roll. But if you're a beginner and you know, it helps you not burn things and it makes things go a little bit slower, not so crazy, so that you can get things right, if that makes sense. Now, you'd think I would say that a food processor is essential. I've been in this kitchen for 5 months. I've used the food processor, I think, twice. 2 times. And it is good for if you want to make your own nut butters. You should have a really good food processor. I use my little Ninja food processor at home because that was better for small amounts than my food processor. My Ninja blender and little food processor were cheap. If you use them a lot, they will probably break. But I don't use mine a ton, so I still have it, and it's been over 5 years, I think. And I got it for like $25 at Walmart. So if you're not planning on doing a lot of that kind of work, just get something cheap. I'll link the Ninja blender that I have if I can find it on Amazon. It's been working for me for 5 years. I've made smoothies off and on. I've made some pestos and stuff in the little food processor. I've made my Nutella in the food processor, and it works okay. My actual food processor I do like for certain jobs, but I don't pull it out very often because it's so big that if I can do it in just my KitchenAid, which is already on the counter and accessible, I'm just going to use that. The food processor is good for cheesecake if you want like the most creamy, smooth, fluffy cheesecake, but I've been making it in my KitchenAid. The trick is just to beat the crap out of the cream cheese and sweetener until it's like super light and fluffy. That's like the biggest thing, and then you'll have a really good cheesecake. So I'll link my food processor below. I do love it. It's like super powerful. It is good for like grinding up pork rinds and stuff like that too. So, and it's not super expensive. The biggest thing is don't put it in the dishwasher because it morphed my bowls and stuff enough that I couldn't get the top back on, and I had to buy another food processor. So be warned, do not put the plastic parts in the dishwasher. I didn't really know where to put like pans in this, but I didn't buy any pans because it was part of our deal. Like I could use whatever pan she had. I always suggest having 8-inch and 9-inch round pans if you're going to bake a lot of cakes. I use a lot of 9x13 pans. So we have a couple of those here. And then loaf pans. These I do not use. I use my big loaf pans. You saw it in my bread videos. I'll link my bread video if you haven't seen that. But I just use that for pretty much everything. Oh, also good cutting boards, which I do not have here. I have one giant cutting board. I wish I would have grabbed a couple smaller ones, but it's already too late. So I just make do with what I have for now. But the good cutting boards are kind of essential, I think, in the baking world. Because if you don't use a cutting board, you will dull your knives. It's one of the biggest reasons to use a cutting board, so you don't dull your knives. They're made to cut on. And other essentials obviously are like sheet pans, cupcake pans, and cooling racks, which I'll link. I think I have a couple that I've bought on Amazon that are at home. She had what she had here, so I just used that. When you're doing things in bigger quantities, you don't normally use like a round pan, but we don't normally do pies because you can only get 8 slices. And like if you're trying to fill the case, you want at least 10 of something, 10, 12. Pie pans are always good to have. Springform pans for certain desserts I have at my house. I don't have them here. I think that's about it for like essential, like big things and like more expensive cookware to have on hand. And then extra stuff, all my silicone. It's all extra. It's for certain specific recipes, popsicle molds, stuff like that. It's all extra stuff. If you want to just make certain recipes, it is what it is. I mean, it's gonna be really hard to make any kind of popsicle without a popsicle mold. I like my butane torch. That is definitely not an essential, but I'll link it below. I do love it for creme brulees. Another thing is that's kind of essential is bowls and pots and pans. But I've never like had them where I'm like, oh, I love these specific ones. We use just a lot of metal bowls, all different sizes. Like I said, I haven't found like a specific set that I'm like super in love with or anything. So there's nothing I can really suggest you buy for like bowls and stuff. I'll put the ones I have at home down in the description box. I mean, they work. They're a little bit, I mean, they're home kitchen ones, you know? So I'm gonna just keep finding things I forgot. Rolling pin comes in handy, but I went a really long time without having a rolling pin. I'll link the one I have below at home, but in a pinch, use a wine bottle or a liquor bottle. One that's like cylindrical and even. It's not essential. I went a long time without having a rolling pin, that's for sure. 8x8 pan or 9x9 pan would also come in handy for things. Another non-essential but nice to have, an electric knife, especially to cut my bread. So I bought this basically so I can slice bread for people, and it works great. Thanks to my mom for letting me in on that one, because she cut a loaf of my bread and it looked amazing. So I bought the exact same one I bought her for Christmas one year. So I'll have this linked below. It is great. And then another thing that's not essential, Excalibur food dehydrator. It's super expensive. I bought like the best one I could. It was a birthday or anniversary gift for Adam, and he never really used it. So now I'm using it to proof my bread. And it definitely comes in handy to do a lot of loaves at a time. But again, not essential. Well, I think that's it for the tour. I hope it helps you in some way. You can get away with not having a lot of stuff. And that's kind of what my goal was when I like bought everything for the bakery. It's like, what do I need? Oh, those are other things I don't have is can opener and a peeler. I bought them for at home, but she has them here, so I didn't bring any to the bakery. Those are kind of also essential. I didn't even think about it until I was like, oh crap, I gotta open up this can of pumpkin, and I can't. Luckily she had one. I'm sure I forgot other things, but if I remember, I'll put them throughout the video. But I hope you guys enjoy this little tour of all the things I think are essential in your baking. Don't forget to check out the Amazon links below. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And as always, I'll be back with many more keto dessert recipes. Bye guys.